Howdy, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a guest by the name of Andrew Cartwright, and we're all here to learn all sorts of things about health, fitness, and also how to get rich. Thank you for being here.
All my topics, my favorite topics. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man.
I love your podcast.
Thank you.
It's very cool. So I'm happy to be here. So, yeah, I figure we'd dive into all this stuff, you know.
Let's get straight into it.
Yeah.
So, where did Andrew Cartwright first make his money?
Well, I started 12 years old, kind of a traumatic story. My dad cut me off at 12 and told me that I had to make my own money, which was super. I mean, at 12, looking back, it's like he gave me a roof over my head. He gave me food, but everything else I had to figure out how to make it. So first thing I did was go to school and work in the cafeteria for food. So I worked so well that I literally got 10 people that I could feed. So they paid me as much as feeding 10 people. Yeah. So I fed all my friends. From there, I started selling jewelry because that was like hot in Vallejo, Oakland, the big rope chains, all that stuff. I made a brochure. By 15, I had 2 companies, Prince to Go and A&E Imports. I started selling to Long's, Payless, Macy's. I got a wholesale license at 15, which made me a beast because I could buy everything for half or 25% of retail. And I thought it was like a superpower. I come in with a resale permit and like literally I'm buying silver at 65 cents a gram. So 1/10 of the cost that you would buy it at the store, right? So it was like, and I was selling to my friends for double what I paid. So they were like, oh my God, big rope chains and the whole bit, the medallions. And then selling to stores, I started bringing in products from South Korea, not North Korea. Probably got a better deal. I could get it from North Korea. Maybe. So brought that in, started going. And by 17, I had 200 employees. I met a mentor at 15 years old that changed my life. Joey Kosman, he's passed away. But I learned how to trademark. I had my first trademark patent in at 16 years old on tail straps. And then by 17, I had exclusive rights to 3 different products. One of them broke out. And I had 200 employees, and all I did pretty much 3 days a week was count money. So from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and I hated it. Can you imagine being like hating counting money? There was so much of it that I actually literally hated counting it.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I had the counters and the whole bit, but it was dirty and a lot of cash, and it was, yeah.
So at that point, how much are you making? I mean, enough to have 200 employees is kind of insane.
Yeah, it was, I mean, pretty... anywhere from probably couple $100,000 each time I counted. So that would, I don't know, 600,000 a week.
God damn.
It was pretty nuts. It was, I bought cars. I couldn't go through a weekend without spending 20 grand.
I would imagine 17-year-old kid is spending money frivolously.
My dad was losing his mind. Because my dad was a contractor. I was on a job site at 7 years old. As a contractor, he told me never become a contractor, which I ultimately later did become a developer contractor. So I know he's probably turning over in his grave. But literally, he was so mad at me because I had no respect for money. And boy, egotistical, self-righteous, you could not talk to me. My youngest manager was 37 years old. Tom McCree. Yeah. And I remember I trained everybody, and I was brutal. I trained thousands of salespeople, so I was seriously pretty brutal. You know? I
mean, at that age, 17, let's say 15, where you start really getting started.
Yeah.
I don't even know that you have the self-awareness to really this is the way I'm managing, or if you're just chasing the dollar.
Yeah, for me, I had so much resistance because of my age. And there was such, I had to prove. I stopped really chasing money as much as it was about just winning. I never played a game unless I knew I could win. That was kind of my thing growing up. You know, I got straight A's, the whole bit. If I couldn't win, I wouldn't play. And I was pretty strategic about what games and what things I did. So I got exclusive rights, so they couldn't buy around me. The 37-year-old called the manufacturer and said, hey, I want to buy this product. Once I trained him on how to sell, and, he was making at the time about $6,000 a month. And this was in 96, right?
Good money.
God, No, this was 87. So that's a lot of money back then, right?
Yeah.
So, but he figured because for his $6,000, I was making $6,000 because I made exactly what he was making, right? So he tried to go around me so he can make $12,000 a month, and the manufacturer gave him my number because I had exclusive rights to Central and Northern California. So if he wanted to get rights, he'd have to move to a different state. He didn't want to do that, but he could, but he didn't.
What were the things that mentor taught you that changed the trajectory?
Really about how to protect and get molts. Yeah, like build a molt, like I think Warren Buffett talks about, or what we say today in the VC world and the PE world is the defensibility. Like, can you defend your product or service in the marketplace, right? From competition and from that. And to give you a perfect example, think of Louis Vuitton, think of Gucci, one of the richest guys in the world that's never created a product, right? Never created a product. Not some crazy service or app, but literally just buying brands to create scarcity with atrocious margin, like brutal margin. Yeah. $200 for a purse you're charging $20,000 for, right? And it costs $200 to make it, right? I mean, so there's so much margin in there, and then playing games with people. So part of that was I learned how to get that, how to do that. And I had the same sort of superpower to get exclusive rights. And all 3 times that I had really big come-ups were all when I went back to the basics about getting exclusive rights, locking up agreements, and solid contracts, and then building the marketing. Because there's only 2 things you can do, a product or service. That's it. Yeah. So then it just becomes names, variations, and your ability to build some sort of either intellectual, a process patent, exclusive rights. Like, for example, Louis Vuitton, that's a brand. So the reason why they put Louis Vuitton over everything is because you can't patent a leather purse, right? You can't, but you can control your trademark. So that's why those brands have like their trademark everywhere, because you can't use their trademark. So that's how they brand the product, convince consumers that, hey, you'll look good, people will like you, and they'll think you have money if you buy our product. So if you spend on a $200 purse $20,000, and trust me, my wife has Hermes, she has a ton of Chanel bags. It's like, I get it, but I also see the reaction from women that see her carrying around a Hermes. So even though it doesn't make any sense to me, I'm like, baby, I can make this. Yeah. You know, it matters to her. It makes her happy, and that's why I work, is to make my wife happy. That's it.
That's nice. Yeah, Hermes oddly carries a ridiculous amount of like clout, which I don't really understand. It's like you spend $130,000 for a bag,
right? That
is just a bag made in China but finished in Italy, and it's like, really, is this the thing?
Well, what's funny is it's finished in Italy by Chinese workers. Did you know this? There's a whole village there. Yeah, it's funny. You should go visit it.
I should.
It's wild. Like, literally, all they did was move the bag inside the jurisdiction of Italy, but it's a whole industrial town and a lot of Chinese there.
Have you seen the facilities or been there?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, my thing is the deep dive. I'm an advocate of studying business models and businesses, and it's just been my thing ever since I was a kid. There's this video that I posted on about a kid just putting a chicken on the back of his bike. And it doesn't look like he can put the chicken on the back of his bike, right? It's like a 7-year-old. Looks exactly like me, which is crazy. But that was me. I just have always been, you know, the crowd runs that way, and I go that way just because my heart sings on creating something. I'm putting something together, seeing it to come to fruition, all that stuff. Even the podcast studio, like just seeing it come to fruition and seeing all this stuff come together is just, to me, that's the beauty in it. I've never really cared about that.
So I started taking some Magic Mind. Magic Mind is clean energy, calm energy for the brain. As you can tell, I'm pretty calm. I feel pretty good. I already took one this morning. I'm going to take another one today, right now. I don't know if you can take more than one, but I love them. And they make me feel like I can just do anything through the day. I've done a lot today. I'm getting my MBA. And so I had a lot of work this morning for a couple different service operations projects and stuff. And I got all of that done today in the morning. 6 chapters of worth of work. And then I worked on some stuff for clients, writing programs, coming up to the studio, meeting with some new individuals, and then like making some posts for social media. I think all of it is because of Magic Mind. Magic Mind just makes me feel like I have a lot to start the day with, that I feel calm but also attentive. I do have ADHD, and it helps me just stay focused while I'm actually doing the tasks that I have. So you guys can get your own bottle and set of Magic Mind if you go use the link below and use the code Nevares50, Nevares 50. You get 50% off of any subscription or 30% off of any single purchase. 50% and 30% are insane deals. So go get you some, get you on a subscription, and just appreciate and love a really good time with a really good product. So get you some. Let me know how you think. It has lion's mane, cordyceps. It has all sorts of good things for the brain. It is been approved. So get you some, and yeah, enjoy. Nevares 50. Click the link below. Thank you, Magic Mind.
How interesting. So then you're 17, making a buttload of cash.
Yeah, a lot of
and
money.
then at that point, are you like, all right, I'm going to go to like college? Am I going to go the traditional route and go to school? Is that the next game plan, or what is the next game plan?
So I graduated at 17 years old. The cool thing in this I'm so happy I did. In high school, I took like 2 or 3 years of accounting, right? Nice. So I had a really good foundation with balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements. I had a real good core understanding. And since my dad was a contractor and my mom was a jeweler, I learned all the different aspects of business, like in the household, at the kitchen table, through arguments. Right?
Usually through arguments.
Through arguments about finance, about marketing, about sales, about all that stuff. I learned at the table listening to my parents fight about it. And then I think 17 years old, I go to college, and of course, I'm young, and I'm really I love women. I think women are like God's gift to, like, I love my wife. I'm like so happy, and it just really completes me. And I'm like, the only thing I wanted from college, I'd go to the marketing classes. I already had 3 companies, Prince to Go, E&A Imports, and my other company, Care. And I'm like, I'm listening to him. I'm like, you don't even make sense. I get the 4 P's: product, place, promotion, product, place, promotion, price. Price was the last P. And then the environmental factors, which are technological, where are you at tech-wise, regulatory, government, can it handle what's going on, social, will people accept it? Like the iPhone really came out with the Newton, and that failed at Apple, right? All the technology from that ended up in the iPhone, but the Newton failed.
Oh, cool.
Right? We weren't ready for it, right? So that's how many?
3.
3. Competitive, which is technological, social, regulatory. 3. Anyway, I'll have to leave. I'm like, but yeah, there's like 5.
There's another
total. Yeah, there's
there.
another. There's one I always miss. I forget which one it is, obviously, but.
So when you're in class,
I'm like telling the professors that every time they say something, they're like, oh God. I'm like, and I got a real story about real example with employees, with actually how the marketing works, or how this. The only place that wasn't that way was in accounting. Accounting was like literally, that was easy because if you balance, you get an A.
Balances.
Yeah, marketing is pretty arbitrary. So, is it going to work? Is it not? Like today, we have an unbelievable superpower, which is so crazy that I didn't have. Before, when I first started businesses, I put out a whole marketing thing and it completely fails, right? And then you do another one, and then you get one that takes off, and then you buy like billboards, you buy all the medium, the newspapers, all that stuff, which people used to read back in the day. And now you can literally test your marketing campaigns. Spend $10. You could spend $10 to find out if something has traction.
It's pretty crazy.
That is wild. That's like a superpower I didn't have. I'm 54. I'm like, God, if I was 18, I'd be flashing different campaigns to see like every day. Let's launch 10 campaigns. And if one gets traction and your conversion ratio is 4x, like it's not hard today, right? The only problem is as soon as you do get success and somebody sees it, it's easily copyable. It's like copy-paste business models.
100%.
Right? Yeah. So the hustle is not going to go away. You're still running up a sand hill.
It's fair. Yeah, the opportunity to just create ads is kind of
insane.
Madness. And then the amount of data you get on how to create a next ad that's better is also insane. I mean, your cost per lead can be like, when we were running ads, we were getting like cost per lead of like $1 per lead.
Yeah.
And then they're qualified, verified leads versus I would imagine 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more expensive per lead. And then you can't really track to see, like you can, but it's probably by hand, right? Like especially 40 years ago, it's by hand. Really, what are we doing here? Right. And then what's going to work?
Yeah. And you can pull data. Like we have software. I have a banking arm, and we have pretty much an unlimited line on Wall Street for fix and flip, ground up construction and rentals. We don't require tax returns. I took that off the line. I'm like, we don't really care. We care about, is this a good deal for somebody? Will they make money? Will it put food on the table? If it does, let's do the deal. And the only minimum requirement is 680 credit score and that the property works. You're going to make money. If you're going to make money, we'll fund you. That's pretty much it. We don't want to hang anybody up in a bad deal. We don't need the money, right? So, and we print our own paper, which is really cool. Press a button, make dreams come true.
It's crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Make people rich. It's super. That's probably the most gratifying thing for me now is making other people rich. And I do that by pressing a button, which is crazy. I print documents and their whole life can change. One deal could be $1 million, literally in 6 months. Let's say you're doing a fix and flip and you buy it for like $1.6 million. We go up to $5 million. And your actual repair value is like 2.4, 2.6. There's $1 million spread in there just by converting an asset that may be a rental into a purchase, which is crazy when you think about it. See, when assets that have income are only valuable up to the income stream that they create for the property. So a lot of times rentals, especially now, are not worth as much as a regular purchase from somebody who's willing to pay in the marketplace. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, because and cap rates, which is how we measure what to pay for something, have been suppressed. I mean, to basically 7%. So before they were 3%. So now what you can actually make on a property based on what it costs for debt is drastically different than before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a market here in Vegas for that right now?
There's a market everywhere in the country. Every market's different. And the crazy thing is people talk in broad generalities. There's a market for the 70, 80,000 to 150. There's 150 to 300, 300 to 500, 500 to 800, 800 to $1.5 million, $1.5 million to 3 million. Every market has different absorption, how fast something sells, cycling. When people talk in broad generalities, is probably the biggest crime to our culture because real estate isn't a generality. Different pockets of income are behaving different. Like pretty soon in the next 12 months, we're in the middle of buying a jet, right? And a bigger jet, it's 24 seats, right? It's more of a regional jet, so it'll be here. It's an 850. And to me, there's going to be a lot of jets that are going to come on the market because at the higher end, there's a lot of jobs being lost. Like, for example, I think Microsoft yesterday or something announced like 6,000 layoffs of people that are making really good money.
Damn.
Right? So there'll be a lot of transition to where there's going to be a lot of blood on the streets in the next 12 months. because of rates. The Fed can't drop them.
They can't.
Mm-mm.
I'm looking at some business loans currently, and the rates are high. I mean, I'm looking at like a 10% rate, which in my head is like that's expensive money. Like a couple of years ago, money was like 3%.
Right.
And so, like, what does somebody do? Let's say they do have a business. What do they do? Do they go get funding? Do they not go get funding? Do they use?
I'm so glad you asked this question. Did somebody plant this question?
Sure didn't.
No, it's a brilliant question. You should buy when it's 10%. You should buy when it's 18% interest, right? Because the asset has to perform to cover the debt. The worst time to buy is when it's at 3%. It's like somebody I really, who's done amazing is Grant Cardone, right? But he bought at the most expensive time in the market. I didn't. I stayed out of the market. I'm not going to buy something at a 3 cap rate. Rates can't stay at 0 forever. They just can't. As soon as inflation or jobs, the mandate for the Fed is to keep a certain amount of people unemployed. They say jobs report, but really what they're trying to do is they want to make a job valuable by less people having them. And the other thing they want to do is manage inflation. They don't care about housing. They don't care about any of the destruction that does to the market, because the only thing the Fed's doing is trying to stabilize the value of the dollar. It's why I carry 50 trillion with me everywhere I go, to remind me. There's been 1,500 currencies that have collapsed. The Fed has done amazing to keep the value of the dollar since 1917. That's mind-boggling, especially when you come off of gold. August 15th, 1971. Literally, we've got our president goes literally on television, Nixon, and says, yeah, all the money you have, we're taking it off the gold standard. All the gold that Germany was doing a run on our Fort Knox, and France, they were all running. They were doing a run on Fort Knox to convert dollars into gold. Nixon had no choice. For national security, he had to take us off the gold standard because they were demanding it. And there's another thing that's nobody noticed. Like, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, Germany wanted their gold because they keep it in the Federal Reserve vaults. And Bernanke said no, he wasn't going to give it to him. He was going to give it to him like in 10 or 20 years. Nobody noticed this story. And I know in banking, because I'm in the banking industry, why he couldn't give that gold out. He hypothecated it, which is a fancy word for he leveraged it to borrow money.
No shit.
So we leverage foreign gold to leverage our own stuff and then don't give it back to them. Nobody noticed. I'm like, how is this stuff? Like, to me, it's mind-boggling.
How and why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it mind-boggling to me?
No.
I mean, if I held your gold, why do it?
Yeah.
He's already borrowed against it. So he can't literally hand the gold back because he won't have the asset that he's borrowed against.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
And Germany promised to keep the gold there for a certain period of time. They wanted to break that agreement. He's like, no, because he's hypothecated it.
Yeah, I can't pay it back.
He can't give the gold because he's locked it up against other assets that he's using the gold as leverage. It's like, I got this gold. I got gold, brother. It's like,
not really.
But it ain't my gold. So you're like, but I have control of it.
So you're saying that if I, like, anybody.
And nobody even noticed. So crazy.
So the 10%, if there's a motivation.
They'll probably suppress this video, by the way.
Yeah, we'll let them.
Yeah,
that's fine.
This is not what they don't want people to understand this stuff. That's why they use words like hypothecation.
Interesting. Yeah, language, right? Language matters.
It's all language.
Yeah, language
That's
matters.
why the legal system uses Latin. And the same in the medical field. They could just tell you, yeah, your blood is not working properly. No, they got to give it a whole, Latin variation of it. And people that, doctors and attorneys that study Latin oftentimes in school, it's just taking derivatives of each thing that they're trying to say and just piecing that word together.
How wild.
Yeah.
So, man, say we're in college.
So back to college. I got everything I wanted from college.
And then,
Everything I wanted. I went to all the beautiful women that were there and got their numbers. So I got the numbers of all. So I got everything I wanted in college, which was some phone numbers. And then I'm like, what was weird too is I'd listen to people. And it's like, what's your dream? What do you hope to get out of college? Or like at that time, it was like $40,000 or $50,000 was a good number in 1988. That was a good number, right? So I'm thinking, wow. So your whole goal in spending 4 years in college is so that you can get a job for $50,000. And in order for me to get through college, I have to like agree with all this stuff that doesn't work, that isn't real, because the market's dynamic. Business is dynamic. You know, you go to sleep for a couple of weeks, it's changed. If you aren't on it, you can't fall asleep at the wheel. Otherwise, you're going to crash into the rocks. And that can happen real fast.
So then what was the next thing, the next business? I mean, are you still selling stuff?
So I have a factory at this point. I have the product lines, 12 different product lines that are all over the place. I have my patent that's in for a product that I'm getting through the patent process. That runs. And then I think I did those three principal companies until I was 26 years old, and then sold them, had my exits, and then had my first retirement at 26 years old.
What'd you do?
I always wanted to act. So I went and studied acting, and started, training for that. Was on Nash Bridges for 3 years as Officer Grant. I was the Microsoft face of Office 2000 all over the world. Modeled for Levi because they were in San Francisco too. So I did a lot of modeling there. My agency my agent at that time was Boom. Hey Boom. They were incredible. They got me even jobs here in Las Vegas. Did bunch of industrials and commercials and stuff like that. Did a Ford commercial that did really well, a regional, and but I did a movie with Clint Eastwood called True Crimes, and he really opened my eyes to the ownership side of when you're on the other side of Hollywood, because I had to beg for a job constantly, right? I'm auditioning against 50 or 100 other people. I get a call back, and then the person that get it is the cousin's sister's brother's friend that got it, or some. Yeah. You're like, okay, this goes back to somebody who knows somebody, somebody who knows somebody, or you show up to an audition, and if you look like somebody that's a friend that they don't like, you don't get the job just because you look like somebody that upset them. Or I don't know. Sometimes I think even
it's ridiculous.
I'm like, no matter. I don't care how good you are as an actor. I don't care how good your chops are, which is what we say in acting about your ability to be pliable emotionally, right, and facial expressions and how quickly you can be read. All that stuff. I did theater to get better. My chops were so good. At 27 years old, it was just wild. Like I can get in any emotion, transition through emotions, any facial expressions, physicality. So had my black belt gi on, breaking bricks to try and get in martial art movies and all kinds of stuff. And it was weird. You're like 6 feet away from stardom, but that 6 feet is so far away. You're like standing next to somebody that literally, like I did 3 movies with Robin Williams. And I remember sitting, and the first movie I'm sitting there, and he goes, "You're an actor." I said, "I'm not an actor. You're an actor, right? I'm unemployed tomorrow, right? People know you, and you get job. I'm not an actor." He goes, "No, you're an actor. You're on this. You're part of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild. You're part of the union. You get retirement and dental. Like you're acting for a living." Yeah. And I'm like, well, if this is a living, like I get your living, $20 million a movie. But I didn't say that. I was, he's just such an amazing human being.
Trying to inspire a little bit.
Yeah, it felt good. Watching his ability to shift, and we'd go to like in a grocery store, like Safeway, and he could have everybody walk up to him and talk to him, or he could keep everybody away. He had this unbelievable, subtle strength of being able to just handle people in a very loving way. And it was wild.
Oh, cool.
They never captured the true Robin Williams, how deep he could go. Like, he was an amazing human being.
There are definitely some cool people out there I would have loved to have the opportunity just to talk to, you know?
Yeah, and I got a lot of time, weeks I spent with him.
How cool.
Yeah, and the first night with him was really rough. It was brutal. It was in hell, literally. We built hell. It was by an aircraft carrier. We had water, fire, smoke, and my job, first job in the film, like that I got into the Screen Actors Guild. My first breakout was trying to kill Robin in hell. So they had me with like all kinds of different weapons, and it was so crazy. Tom Shadyac, no, it wasn't Tom Shadyac. It was Vince Ward was the director, and I'm like, in mud outfit with a cape, and it was brutal. And he told jokes for like 12 hours. It was like the first hour was great, but after that, it actually started to hurt. I was like, how can this guy be funny for 12 hours? Just that. His
talent or practice, or
I would love to see any comedian be funny for 12 hours. And he could do it at will.
It's crazy.
Everything.
He is funny. He is funny.
He is. Like, if you look up in the dictionary, look funny, it'll be Robin Williams.
Yeah.
His picture there.
So then you finish acting, or at what point do you leave
3
the
years
acting
into
industry?
it, in meeting Clint Eastwood and going through and seeing what it's like to own the production company. See, he started Malpaso Productions like 30 years prior. It's like 50 years now. But I said, this is an amazing set. You work 8 hours. Everyone talks in a whisper. Everyone's like, hey, can you go over here? Everyone's super polite. Usually they're yelling on a set, and you're working 12 to 18 hours every day, and everybody's worried about getting fired. Nobody on the set was worried about anything. Nobody was worried about getting fired, which was interesting to me. Nobody was kissing butt to somebody else, because on all the other sets, there was so much butt kissing. It was unbelievable, because you got invited back to the set. Nobody knew if they had a job tomorrow.
Damn.
So, yeah, it's brutal. You get the best butt kissers in the world. They should have butt kissing training that's taught by people that have been in the business for 30 years, because it's unbelievable.
They're good at it.
They're so good at butt kissing. The best butt kissers in the world, and don't mean any of it. You hear, when they walk away, the truth about what they're thinking, it's ugly. So, but they're probably the best actors are the actors that are off the camera. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at all this stuff. In the morning, we come in, and they have all these like juices, fruits I've never heard about lined up. I go over, I'm like, what do you want for breakfast? I pull up to the guy. He goes, just tell me anything you want and I can make it. I'm like, anything? He said, yeah, anything. So later I got to talking, and, Clint we didn't even rehearse. I mean, we rehearsed, but he recorded the rehearsal and he kept all of them. So I never heard him say action. He always say, go, right? So we'd do our thing, and then he'd go, yeah, that was good. And then we'd move on. I'm like, he took rehearsals, and I think it was his way to get all the actors very comfortable, thinking that it wasn't going to be filmed, and then catching the best, which is probably the rehearsal and not the actual action where everybody's tense and feels like they're on hook, on edge, right? So I did, and then at the end of it, I said, I don't get this. We have the most amazing food. We have prime rib. We have shark. We have lobster. We have the most amazing food. We only work 8 hours. Nobody's scared to get fired. Clint, I've never seen anything in my life like this. No company, nothing. I've never seen this in my life. Like, what happened? This is like movie heaven. And he goes, 30 years ago, I set up a company called Malpaso Productions. And Malpaso Productions, I put together so that I could keep all the people, because people were getting Dear John letters, their relationships were blowing up, all kinds of stuff was happening. I wanted to protect the people that I loved. So I put the company together, and we have Thanksgiving together, we have Christmas together. We work on 1 or 2 movies a year, and we do that, and we all come together. We talk, because everybody knew what to do. It was the craziest, most well-oiled set too. Everybody knew what to do. He didn't have to tell anybody anything. It wasn't chaotic or anything. Everybody knew where to go, knew what to do. It was very, very comfortable. And I said, and he goes, yeah, I put it together so that I could take care of the people that take care of me. And so that's why you see him even at like 80 or 90 years old, still doing movies, because his brand gets people to go to the theaters to look at it. But it's been his crew for the last 50 years that's been making these different pictures they like, and they make them to keep the budget at a reasonable budget. They're profitable films, and he's had an incredible contract, I think, with Paramount, and they just let him do his thing. Another person that did that was Brad Pitt. Him and his wife from Friends. What's her name?
Not Angelina Jolie.
No, the one before Angelina Jolie.
I don't know. I can't remember her name.
Aniston?
Was he married to Aniston?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then
yeah,
yes.
Jennifer Aniston, right? Yeah. Amazing actress, right? So they set up a company called Plan B, right? And it wasn't the pill. It was like literally their Plan B, which is an amazing production company today that they actually started. So the stuff that didn't go well with Angelina Jolie that blew up in his face actually went well with Jennifer. He put that company together, Plan B, and then that's been a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if Plan B isn't the production company on F1 or one of the production companies on F1.
So then would that motivate you to start a production company?
It motivated me to get out of acting because I saw the chances of really becoming a star. Once you become a star, it's easy because they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to market you. So you become a star only because of marketing. Every star we have was force-fed to us, right? So those days, they're slipping away now. People have to build an audience before they're even getting acting gigs anymore. It's like turn the other way around. But yeah, I decided that I wanted to get so rich that I could just make movies. And now I'm at that stage where I'm looking to put a production company and make movies. I'm 54. So there's nothing more magical and more amazing than experiencing human emotions with humans to try and express humanity in a moment. And when you capture those moments and you feel them, it's like there's no better drug. Then I don't care what synthetic drug you make. There's no drug better than human connection and a moment where you express it in a way that's so authentic, so vulnerable. There's nothing like it. And then to have the ability not to beg to do that, to make a film that tells a story that captures people's, imagination and inspires or transforms the character, which ultimately you walk that journey with the character, which most films are about transformation. Something happens to the main character that transforms, and you're waiting for that transformation, and you see the journey they go through to get there. So, that's the journey all of us go through, right? Is that rough and it's brutal. Life is brutal. There's suffering, right? Like the Buddhist, it's like life is suffering.
So then you've lived a hell of a life. A hell of a life, right? And so
I know, I look at mine, it looks like I've lived, most people, I've started through over 32 companies in 17 industries, bought 17 companies, 5 exits, built 3 companies this past year that are worth now over 100 million, which is pretty crazy in the tech world. I feel like I've lived many lifetimes. It's just, I love working. It's not really work. The work is like the cover for play. I get to play 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I get to play with real estate, with businesses, with money. I have a fund called Dragons and Angels. I get to do all kinds of creative things to make people's dreams come true in the tech space and in real estate, and investors that make great returns. So it's I don't know. I'm having a blast.
Why? What's the point of it all? What's the point? Like, why do you do it? Why do you choose to do it? It's a choice. So what's the purpose?
I think just the stimulation, the challenge. I like puzzles. I like figuring stuff out. I love to see people succeed. I like to see projects win. There's something about the challenge when all the odds are against you, and that it's tough and it's a competitive landscape. To figure out that magic thing that wins is just fun. It's fun to figure that out, and to get to do that every day is just. What else are you going to do? I don't have to work another day in my life. I tell people if I go in a coma today, I'll be wealthier when I come out of it. Like literally, I have 86 streams of income. I don't need money. It's like I don't need it at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's just fun to create. And the byproduct of creating something that's valuable in the marketplace is money. If people value it in the marketplace, you make a lot of money. If they don't, you lose money. Pretty simple.
What was your first loss?
Oh, first loss. First loss. I would say, God, that's a tough one. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. 92. Year's 92. And we had hit a recession. So in my lifetime, there's been the recession of 92, 96, 2001, and 2008, right? And we're probably in a recession right now. We need 2 down quarters. We got the first one down. We need 1 more. We'll be in a recession, you know?
Yeah.
But by the time we're in a recession, we're out of it. Most people don't realize it because we report it after it's already happened. It's backward looking, not forward looking.
Yeah.
So 92 recession hits. I've delivered $20,000 worth of product to furniture stores, and this one big furniture store, and I'm selling all over the place from the factory. And I go to pick up my check, right? I just dropped off the product. 30 days have passed. I'm going to pick up a $20,000 check. And I walk up to the store, and it's got a everything must go sign on it. Like, everything must go, right? And the guy goes, oh, yes, I'm a receiver. I'm like, oh, awesome. Do you have a check? And he goes, no, I'm a receiver. I said, that's great. There's the store. There's my product. You guys are supposed to pay me in 30 days, right? I have to pay all my suppliers.
Yeah.
I got frame supply. I've got glass to cover. I've got foam core. I've got, glue. I've got all my stuff I got to cover. It's like 20 grand. And they're like, and I can see my product I delivered 30 days ago. And he goes, yeah, I'm a receiver. They're in bankruptcy and everything's selling. And I said, okay, so you're supposed to pay in 30 days. He goes, well, you're going to have to wait in line. Wait in line? I mean, can I just pick up the product? He goes, no, you can't pick it up. The federal court now has control of it, and you cannot pick it up. That would be a crime. That would be theft, and you're dealing with the federal court. I'm like, federal court? I'm like 22. I have no idea what that, like, really? This is how it rolled? So he goes, yeah. So I had to wait in line. I never got paid for that $20,000, and I delivered the product. They never paid me. They had to pay everybody else off. Like, for example, I buy debt on companies and, fund, right? So I'm in first position on all my debt positions, whether it's distressed or regular debt. I'm a first note holder. So, being that the first person that was going to get paid there were the people that had notes against the business, a UCC1 filing. Well, I would have been the last person to do it because it goes by the chain of the UCC1s by the date and the date they actually filed the UCC1. So if you're in court and you're trying to get paid, you're behind all those other people. And UCC1 is Universal Commercial Code, and 1 is just one of the statements that you can lien a company for debt that they would have to clear in order to sell that business or borrow more money, and other lenders see that UCC1 and say, you got to clear that, or we got to pay off that UCC1 because we need to be in first position to recover the debt. Like, I buy a lot of debt against companies, major corporations. I'm a first bondholder debt. So, and what's funny is most people don't realize this. When you buy stock, you're one of the last people you're the first person to get wiped out and the last person to get paid. The first person are the note holders like me. I'm positioned first. The assets of the company they sell, I get the check. And that was something that I learned when I was 22 years old. The difference of debt structuring and where things fell into place and the vulnerability that you could put yourself in by success, right? By trying to sell. Because you really have to think about, am I going to get paid? And then your risk when you deliver a product, you want to know that company is healthy enough to pay you, that they're not going out of business.
So you're telling me I should buy Apple bonds and not Apple equity?
Yes, depending. So you buy equity for cash flow. So when a company is doing well, and I don't think Apple pays a dividend, maybe they do. I don't think they pay a dividend.
Yeah.
So I look for dividend companies if I'm looking and look at cash flow. So I like the cash flow that comes from the dividends. And then I also have a good 60% that's in debt. And then probably and then the other probably 40 or 30% is equity based, because you get the growth of equity that you don't get on the debt side. Debt, you don't get any more than your debt plus whatever you receive in interest. On the equity side, I have stocks that have gone up 400%. I couldn't get that in the debt.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting 8%, from a company, 9% from a company. 400% is a lot different than 9%. That would take me a long time to do that. So, and I have a lot of companies that have performed that well. So I am on the equity side for the gambling, for the possible growth and dividends, but conservatively, I place a majority of my portfolio, even in Dragons and Angels. 80% of the fund is securitized by notes that are first position, right? And then 20% of the fund is private equity and businesses. And part of the reason I did that for the fund was just to my own financial blueprint. 2008, when it blew up, I lost way more than $100 million. I had 100 projects going and lost everything in real estate. But the cool thing is I had 14 companies. Skyview Terrace upstairs, I actually started that. Ran it, a banquet facility. If you go on Yellow Pages and look up Skyview, you'll see me doing a commercial like 20 years ago or 16 years ago.
We got to look it up.
Yeah, it's funny. So, I built 14 companies, car dealership, insurance company, finance company, 14 companies that were running and had all the real estate. So real estate collapsed. I had projects that were worth $20 million that were now $1 million, buyers that walked, the whole economy, banks weren't lending money. But I had 14 companies that were going that produced cash flow. Some of them were producing $600,000 a month in cash flow. So I had that free cash flow that saved my real estate, because real estate will crash. It's not if, it's when. Every market crashes at some point. You have winter, spring, summer, and fall, right? Every company will fall. Every real estate market will fall at some point. But then it'll turn around and it'll spring back up, and then in summer will hit and it'll be all interest rates will be 3%. Everything will be hunky dory. That's when all the really rich people sell. The really rich people sold to Grant Cardone because they didn't see the assets getting worth any more money. How do you sell something when people are willing to buy something only making 3%? Those assets only make 3%. That's the cap rate, 3%.
Makes sense.
Where do you go from there? And rates are at zero. How does the Fed stay at zero? So to me, I stayed out of the market. When it was at 3 caps, I'm like, let some other fool buy that, because a 3% return, not interested at all. At that time, I was buying like Oki Energy, and I was getting 9%. I bought Wells Fargo, moved a lot of assets to Wells Fargo. They were paying a dividend to 8-9%. So I was getting, while Grant was buying stuff at a 3% cap rate, 3% income, I was buying stuff that had 8-9% income plus growth. So those stocks that have the 400% return also paid me dividends of 8-9%.
Those are fat percentages.
Yeah. So, but what's funny is my stories are never fun for people to listen to. When real estate's ugly, I'll tell people to buy, and everybody will be afraid. There's a thing I learned from Warren Buffett. He said, be fearful when people are greedy, like 3%, right? Be very, and be greedy when people are fearful. It's contrarian thinking, right? The opposite.
Yeah.
So when everybody's afraid of a market, that's the market I'm interested in. When everybody's greedy in a market and running to it and think it's the next big thing, and your shoe shine person tells you it's the business you should invest in or do, it's the last thing you should do. So it's always pretty much the opposite that has margin.
I had a client of mine. He owned a family office. I think that like 175 different companies that they own. He has a fund. He always said, buy at a funeral, sell at the wedding. That was always his thing, which is I guess the same idea, right? Yeah, same idea.
First time I heard that. Can I use that?
Yeah, of course.
You got to pay him a royalty or anything?
I mean, I can ask him.
Did he lock that down?
He might want to.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's a good
funny.
one. Yeah.
Buy at the funeral, sell at the wedding. Most people are afraid to talk at the funeral.
Yeah.
Right? And they're afraid to sell at the wedding. So, yeah. They want to mourn at the funeral and celebrate at the wedding.
But we do the opposite. Yeah. Do the opposite.
Yeah. Mourn at the wedding, the loss of selling your assets.
Fair. Yeah.
Celebrate at the funeral. when you can acquire. It's funny how people just don't care. There's certain times people don't care. Another thing to track is like divorces. When people are going through a divorce, what they were like, if you get somebody that's growing and building, they want top dollar. But during a divorce or a death or a transition, from like even right now, there's $68 trillion worth of businesses that have to trade hands. That's why I built one of the companies I have is called Transaction Room to help people find businesses, and built a vault and contracts that are AI driven. Like it'll write the contract for you. You can put all financials, even send it over to the SBA to get lending on it. It's just really, really cool. It's a real broken system. But $68 trillion has to trade hands in businesses and assets because the current generation doesn't want to run it. And those businesses are viable businesses, like 32 million of them. So it's like the transition, even in Japan, they have CEOs of companies that are literally adopting adult kids to take over the company. Wow. Adopting. And I think part of that is tax reasons, but they have no kids that want the businesses. So there's this weird kind of thing. There was adult adoption that a company here in the United States, which I thought was very interesting.
That is very interesting. I didn't know that was a thing.
Right?
I know that they have a problem with their current, what is it called? Not their morbidity rate, how fast they're having children, and it's pretty low, like extremely low. And so they're paying like Americans to come out and just impregnate our people, please.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because we are having a problem here, and so it's pretty wild that's what's going on over there. So I am like, does somebody buy businesses? Is that the next game? Is that the better game rather than owning or starting and owning a business?
The game really, and this is, it's so funny. We were talking about before the podcast about just getting people in a position to win that they feel good about. So really, I think, and it's not that whole cliche, do what you love or whatever it like, but whatever you can consistently be interested in, I think is important. Because what I find, I've always been successful in businesses that I was interested in. But the other side of that is I've never done a business I wasn't interested in, right? So kind of a flip side. But the part of that is just having a ferocious curiosity to be curious about that particular product or service, that business, that industry, how it works, that there's some sort of connection there. I do think buying a business is the best. Like if I could tap myself on the shoulders at 22 years old and say, Andrew, don't start another company. That's your ego messing with you. That's pride. Pride messing with your head. Buy a business. You've already proven that you know how to run stuff. You created manufacture from scratch, distribution company, wholesale company from scratch, multimillionaire. Like, what are you doing? Stop. Go buy businesses. Buy other people's cash flow. It's the fastest way to grow. If I would have known then that Apple was buying a company every 3 weeks, that Amazon was buying a company every couple of weeks, right? And that Bill Gates was buying a company every time he could, and being able to use the leverage of cash flow to do leverage buyouts to buy a company. Like if I would have known that, I would be worth billions of dollars today. But I blame my ego for this. I had to create. There was some sort of self-expression that I got from creating a company, from the brand to the name to putting everything together. And that was probably the worst mistake of my life. Maybe pride at an early age. Now my pride is completely gone. I have no pride. I wear the same thing every single day. Pride is not what I wear on my badge. Now it's vulnerability, it's growth, it's communication, it's community, it's connection, and it's helping other people succeed. That's kind of where I'm founded. Is I'm really interested in how other people can become successful. The hard part for me is not forcing people to be successful, because I haven't met anybody that wanted to be successful as much as I wanted them to be successful, right? And it's a fascinating thing. Like, the only thing holding anyone back is themselves. And I see the constraints. The problem is most people don't see their own constraints, or they're happy with their constraints. They don't want to be outside of it. It's uncomfortable. And I'm comfortable being in the space of what I don't know that I don't know. Because what I know, it's easy. What I don't know I don't know it. So it's still comfortable. But when I go outside of that, to that I don't know, that is a complete like abyss of experience and learning. That's the place I'm the happiest. And that's where I find the most growth, and to be where I'm completely free falling. Like, I'm a free fall skydiver. Learned how to do that at, I think, when I was 26 years old, when I had retired. One of the other things, first thing I did was go skydive.
Very nice.
I don't know how smart that is.
I wouldn't at all. 0%. I hate heights.
Yeah.
But good on you, though.
Yeah.
That's not for me.
Yeah. The first 3 jumps, you do static lines at first. You just jump out of the plane and it pulls your parachute. And by the time you like catch your breath from the first fall, the first like 200, 300, 400 feet or whatever it is like you don't realize gravity like this. You have no idea, like, from what you're experiencing right now, being stable in that chair, sitting here and experiencing the foundation. And then up there, you're like a cockroach, just, you have no control at all until you build enough velocity so that you can flatten out, arch, and be able to move and control yourself with aerodynamics, right, from the fall. But before you gain control, there's this space where you have absolutely no control at all, where you just have to trust in the process and let go. It's an unbelievable feeling.
You make it sound nice, but I'll probably still never do it.
Yeah, it is. You can only experience that jumping out of a plane, and only free falling. And a lot of people do a couple of static line jumps. Maybe they'll do a tandem with somebody, but when you get to free fall yourself, and you're responsible for everything, checking your altimeter, checking all the signs, and every movement of your arm or legs. Like, if you bend your knees, you're going to go backwards. Straighten out your legs, you're going to go forward. Any position you put your arm in, like even when you go to grab the ripcord, you start turning this way, right? Just so the first time you go, you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like, how am I going to get to the cord, right? And then but the trick is you put your hand over your head, and then you pull in. That keeps the rotation from happening. So then you remember, you're like, oh yeah, okay. And then you get to the ground, you practice that a bunch of times. You're like, okay. It's such a simple thing, but you're like,
when you're up there, it's different.
Because if you flip over and you got the parachute on your back,
things aren't very good.
Yeah, and you only got 2 chutes. I know it sounds like, but when you think you only have 2, if the first one tangles, you have your reserve chute, and you're like, if the reserve chute goes, that's it. That's all over, done. There's no hole. There's no net down there. If you hit water, you're still croaked.
It is death.
It is over.
It is guaranteed.
And you decide to jump out of this plane.
So it's your fault.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, most people say, why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? They've never skydived. I mean, our planes, you could see through the floor. They were all rusted out. Talked to the pilot. The pilot didn't speak English because they were trying to get flight time in from some other country. So you're almost relieved to jump out of that plane. You're like, how did we even get to 10,000 feet? How did we get to this altitude in the first place with this plane? You're like, because it's the worst planes, because, they don't charge much for skydiving. So you're not going up in style. It's not like, it's not like a Jeep. My wife loves what do you call it, Gulfstream. So she likes the window size. But yeah, it's not a Gulfstream. There's no, drinking champagne and just walking out the back.
Yeah. Because then at that point,
exist.
I'm not jumping off.
Yeah. No.
Why would you?
Yeah. Why would you? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yes. But we should start that. The Gulf Stream, skydiving. Yeah.
Charge a pretty good amount for that, you know, good experience, and then just send somebody out.
Yeah. Yeah. And instead of going out the side, it just drops you out the bottom.
There you go.
Yeah.
What an experience.
What an experience. Yeah.
So, how does somebody buy businesses? What do they do? Where do they get started?
The crazy thing is know how to run a business, first of all. Go work for somebody, go do something, go, spend 6 months, a year working in the business that you want to buy. Go buy the business. If you want to be really bold, just walk up to the owner and ask, are you willing to sell? And if so, could you mentor me to buy the business? I'll work for free to buy your business. That's probably the way I would approach it. Personally, I'm a risk-averse person, so I'm conservative. And then the owner's looking at, like, I don't have a succession plan. 70% of them have no idea. Like, they get to 70 or 65, and they're like, now what? They haven't even structured the company usually to sell it. Some of them are sole proprietors. Like, how do you sell that? Right? You'd have to transition that company to a different company, and buy the other stuff out of it because you're not buying the business. You know what a sole proprietorship is? Yeah, it's like you are the business.
Yeah.
All the liability, everything is yours. So I think that would be one start. Business brokers, I would talk to some about, like, they're tough though because it's a real broken industry. But really, what I would do is, like, figure out what I wanted to do and just go start approaching and talking. These are human beings. The crazy thing is, you would think these human beings, because you're not one, that they're like a whole nother level. The responsibility level to be an owner it's crazy. Like when people say, yeah, I want to be my own boss. I want to be an owner. I'm like, you do realize that when you become the boss, everyone else is your boss. When you work for somebody, you have one boss. When you, like, own a business, you have lots of bosses. You get modified tax that you got to pay. You got the Clark County, and here you got Nevada. That's another partner in your business that you got to make all these people happy. Yeah. You got to make sure that you paying and taking care of your state taxes. You've got unemployment. You've got workers' comp. You have all these people you've got to make happy. You got to make customers happy. You got to make your employees happy. You got to train them. You got to make your customers happy with the product or service that you're offering. You got to keep them happy. You got to keep Google happy on the SEO side. You got to keep Facebook happy so they don't cut you off. And you got all these. Everybody is your boss. You really, like, that's the craziest thing. I love it because I like the challenge of trying to make everyone happy. That's a fun thing to do, but the reality is the easiest thing to do is a high-paying job where you have one boss and then invest the money. It's not what you make.
It's easy.
It's what you save and invest.
Yeah.
You want to be rich? You can be rich working for somebody. It's all about what you save and invest, living below your means and investing the difference. And work multiple jobs. I worked 14 jobs in 2008. I ran all the different businesses. Went around fixing. Pretty much I've spent most of my life being a firefighter. All I do is put out fires. Yeah. Right now in this podcast, there's something blowing up in my world. I know when we're off the podcast, there'll be something I got to fix. If you came here this morning, I was towing a van from a company that went bankrupt out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Because I had to sign it. Putting out fires, brother. Yeah. That's why I'm a firefighter.
Always.
That's my job.
Cool. I guess last kind of topic and questions, and then we can head out. How does fitness or health influence your current existence?
I think fitness is super important. It really transforms. Like, if you want to be, like, really successful, I think fitness is an important component to it because it changes. And it also gives, for me, meditation. I just did the World Championship Ironman. I qualified and did the World Championship Ironman in Hawaii, which was it was a life goal. Check.
Nice.
Goals. And I did it for 10 years, Ironmans. And, you'd have to train 4 or 5 hours a day. I'd swim for a couple hours, go run for 4 or 5 hours, and then go bike 100 miles. So the total race is a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and it is a full marathon, 26.2 miles. Total is 140.6 miles, and you have to do it within a time restraint. So, and you're, against, like, for example, Hawaii, which was the toughest one I've ever done, but probably the most amped. In fact, the first couple of days when I got there, I went and did the swim. I swam out like 1.3 miles and swam back in, and I was scared to death, right? Because there was winds, waves, like all this stuff, right? And we're swimming out into the ocean. Yeah. And I got back, my wife saw my face, and I went to go get coffee. I came back. She pulled up my trust and was going through all the trust documents. And for 3 days, we talked about my death and worked through all the details. I already had a trust set up and everything like that, but she wanted certain modifications. So I felt like I was negotiating my death for 3 days. And then after that, we notarized it. And I am like, can we stop talking about me dying now? Can we just stop? She goes, I saw your face. Like, I never saw that face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were terrified. And I was completely terrified because I'd never experienced that open water, current going sideways, waves, winds, never did that.
Scary, man.
It was scary. So, and then the day of the race, we got there. I did the swim, got bit by jellyfish. They had jellyfish that were coming in. They were going to potentially stop the race if there were box jellyfish, which can kill you. So that, and then there were sharks. And I didn't find out about the sharks till after the race because I probably would have got out of the water. They said that the sharks came and the dolphins, there was a school of dolphins that came in, like 26 of them. And they went back and forth and like guarded all the swimmers and kept the sharks to shore. And I'm like, wow, it's like kind of a God thing. Like what? Because they had it all on camera. And I'm like, no, they said, no, dolphins do this all the time. They protect swimmers. They literally protect us. They're smart. Yeah. I went, you got to be kidding me. They're like, yeah. And of course, sharks will stay away if they see a bunch of dolphins. So I did the swim, did the bike. The bike was raining. There were crosswinds, lots of people were being pulled away in ambulances, which was really tough from crashes. So the 6,000 feet of grade, which is insane.
Damn.
I remember this is the first time I ever got off the bike and said, I have to do a full marathon after this. It was the first time. I was done. I was completely done. I'd never been done in an Ironman. I always sign up for an Ironman thinking that I can't finish it. That's part of the reason I sign up is because it's like impossible. It's like like literally I go kind of delirious during the race. Like, I tease people that I saw Elvis and Jesus almost every time in Ironman, just Elvis and Jesus, so I talk to God a lot during races. Again, God and I are like that during races, And you walk up to somebody, like I remember the last few miles of the Ironman, and people were, I'm like, hey, how far is it down to the turnaround? And this is what an Ironman sounds at about 130 miles. I'm like, so how far is it? I'm like, okay, I'll ask the next one. Ask the next person. Okay. So like literally nobody can talk at that point. It's like mind boggling. But I couldn't figure out why, because up until then I'd always done Ironmans like for this whole, Ironman thing. And this one I couldn't come up with, why am I doing this? I've already done Ironmans for 10 years. Like, why am I doing this? So on the last 4 miles, I'm talking to God, and I got like a thought, a message. Maybe it was from God. Maybe and it was like, you think you were doing this for you. The only reason you're doing this and why I'm having you do this is to inspire others to do what they think they can't do. And I was like, okay, I can. So the last 4 miles were great. Had an incredible finish. It was filmed. They sell my images, Getty, from the Ironman for $500 a piece of my finish at the World Championship Ironman. Is that crazy? $500 a piece because I wanted to buy them. And they're like, yeah, they're Getty images and they're owned and licensed. I'm like, but that's me. They're like, yeah, it's $500 if you want it. Like Getty images. No wonder why Getty was so rich.
They're doing well.
They're doing well.
All right.
Yeah. So I think it's a vital part. Plus, all that training gave me a lot of time to meditate, work out problems. You'd be surprised if you just go on a long run for like 13 miles or 20 miles, how like things will just clear up for you that like your mind, especially when the endorphins kick in, I get so happy and I feel so good. You should feel really good when you work out. Like you shouldn't feel bad.
Yeah.
You should actually feel good the whole time you're working out. And people try and rush it to like push it like the Rocky movies. No, just a little bit at a time. 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, and feel good. Enjoy that workout. Enjoy your body. It's an amazing, amazing gift that you've been given. Like
100%.
love it, you know, and enjoy it. And yeah, because it's amazing.
I love it. Where can people find you?
Andrew Cartwright, just Google me. Andrew Cartwright. Most of my stuff pops up. My YouTube, I've been trying to hit a million subscribers. I've done 3,125 videos, so I'm an overnight success.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, I've never had the viral moments because I've never cared about virality. I know that sounds crazy, but I've always wanted to produce content that helped people tactically, strategically, get free money, which is a big thing. My wife got $480 million that we got in grant money to help fix housing. And we only took 150 grand as a salary a year to handle that, like almost $1 billion at the end of it worth of money, and then give the savings back to the rest of the money from the grant back to the state of Nevada to help the general fund.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
we'll have to do this again.
Yes,
cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
for
y'all.
having me.
Cheers. Love y'all.
Cool.
Thanks.